Hi, I'm Carla. I have Diana with me today. Onyx is also joining us. And today's class is working towards trying to get mobility in the thoracic spine, a little bit of strength in this upper back region, and also that sort of what they call the smartphone slouch. So it's not just from being on smartphones and iPads. This dowager's hump that some people get can be genetic. It can also be because of your profession. So some students, it's writers, artists, so many people get it. It is a class that's going to make use of a chair. So if you have one of those yoga chairs, great. Otherwise, you'll just use whatever chair to adapt. And these poses, try to do them regularly if you want to make a difference within your body. Throughout the day at the office, if you're on your chair, take a bit of time throughout the day just to do a little bit of a back bend. Getting the backrest of a chair digging into the shoulders is really nice, and pulling the arms down to get this openness in the chest is also quite useful. You can also do this with the hands interlaced behind the head and just go over into a back bend. So yeah, do these throughout the day, quite important. Have a chair for today's practice. Have your other props, such as bricks, straps, your usual yoga paraphernalia. We are also going to use bolsters. Come to a cross-legged position. So whatever cross you instinctively took, change the cross of the legs. So you've got the unusual cross, or maybe it's a little bit uncomfortable or feels uneven for you. Adjust the buttock flesh, sit comfortably, letting the thighs rest down. Lift the spine from the sacrum up towards the crown of the head and bring the hands together in the prayer position. Close your eyes. Just come to your breath. We're focusing on that area in the upper back. So already here, can you focus on bringing that thoracic spine into the body, opening up the chest by lifting the breastbone up. Broaden across the breastbone, take the front of the shoulders back. As you broaden across the breastbone, broaden across the collarbones, bring the dorsal spine in, bring the shoulder blades into the body. So focusing on that region. We'll prepare for class with the 3 arms. Come back to your breath. Feel what the chest is doing. Have you maintained that openness? Have you drawn the shoulder blades in, shoulders away from the ears? Release the head down. Taking a moment here to give thanks for the health and strength of your body. Release your hands into the lap. Lift your head up and open your eyes. Okay, so to find whether you're getting that dorsal hump into the body and that alertness in your spine, you want to take, so remember which cross of the legs you've got. You're going to scoot back towards the wall and move your blanket right back against the wall. Sit your buttocks right back against the wall, change the cross of the legs. And now you'll quickly see where the Are you able to get the shoulder blades down the back, this front shoulder back towards the wall, the sides of the neck back? So if your back is rounded and your head is coming forward in that smartphone slouch, if you do have that shape, can you bring the dorsal in? Can you take the sides of the neck back, make the neck long to take the head to the wall? And it might take time to get this sort of shape. At first, you might feel that the only way to get your head to the wall is to lift your chin up to make contact. But then you begin to lengthen the back of the neck, draw the sides of the neck back, keep opening the chest. If there's tension creeping in at the hips and you need to take more height, take more height. If you have time to be here, absolutely take a bit of time to just sit in this Virasana position where you're opening up against the wall. Don't forget to breathe. And whenever you need to come out of it, you do. You'll take your blanket, just a firm blanket that you use for Shirshasana, opening it up like this. Along the tall side, you're going to roll the blanket into a little sausage, and you're placing it at the one end of your mat. You want to bring that blanket at the edge of your thoracic spine. So kind of where your bra strap is, where the edge of the shoulder blades are. Bend your knees. Keep your knees bent so that you can keep the back waist long, and just feel. First of all, is it in between the two shoulder blades? Am I able to feel that it's in the correct position directly in between the two shoulder blades? Take a blanket, an extra folded blanket for your head and your neck. And when you've relaxed and you're ready, you can extend the legs. So now you want to feel, can I get that dorsal area in? Am I able to find a spread? So although the breastbone doesn't spread, can you broaden across the breastbone? Can you take the collarbones out to the sides? There's freedom here for that upper arm to descend. Make sure that the back of the neck is long, so don't forget the action that you had a moment ago against the wall, back of the neck long, sides of the neck drawing down. And just take a few breaths here. Soft inhalations, quiet exhalations. If at any point your back feels uncomfortable in this, simply bend your knees and rather just sit and get this openness in the chest. There's a few ways that you can get this openness in the chest. One of the ways is to put a brick into the dorsal spine. We'll be doing that a little bit later. But another way of getting mobility in that thoracic spine. So you've got your cervical spine, which is your neck, and the thoracic spine is between the shoulder blades, the upper back. That's sometimes called the dorsal spine because it's where the dorsal fin is on a dolphin. So another way to get mobility in the vertebra in the upper back is to use stress balls. So you can use either really hard, firm stress balls or nice, softer stress balls. And where the blanket is in between the shoulder blades, that's where you're going to be putting the stress ball. So bend your knees and come up. You can keep the blanket for the head exactly where it is. And I'm going to begin with the stress ball exactly where the edge of the blanket was. So lying down and then lie over it. Sometimes when I do this, you feel a little click on your back, and it's quite nice actually. You can keep your legs bent or the legs straight because you're not going to hold it for very long. Each exhalation, quieten the abdomen, relax the shoulders. If you feel pain or sharp pain, sharp discomfort, come up. Bend your knees and then just roll up and then come down again. So you keep rolling it up a little bit at a time. Make sure it feels that it's in the center. Try to relax the shoulders. Keep the knees bent. Keep the abdomen releasing. Back of the neck long. Back of the neck long. So tuck in your chin. Yes. And it's not entirely comfortable, but it's not entirely uncomfortable either. Then coming up and up, you down, you come again. So it's a little bit awkward if you're trying to do it for yourself, trying to get your ball into position. Make sure it is in the middle. You're trying to get each vertebra in that thoracic spine just to have a go at moving into the body, mobilizing that upper back. So that dowager's hump is often from weakness in the upper back muscles. And then when the upper back muscles are weak and everything starts to collapse and sag, you know, your spine rounds and it gets stuck there. So this will help it to get a little bit unstuck. And then last one. Move the skin of the upper back down. Have it right at the base of the neck. And then once you've been there for a little bit, you're just going to roll onto your side to come off the ball. Right. And we're coming to Adamuka Virasana. Adamuka Virasana, if you need softness for under your shins and knees, take a blanket. If you need a blanket for between the toes and heels and the buttocks, take it. The knees are apart and you're extending forward to a set of bricks. Have the palm on the brick, extend the fingers. So you don't want the wrist or the forearms on the brick. Stretch the palm open, spread the fingers. So in this Adamuka Virasana, because the hands are elevated, you're getting more openness here in the armpit region and hopefully getting this dorsal area in, the thoracic spine in. So where the ball was, where the blanket was, that is where you're working at coming in. You can rest your head on the floor, especially if you're going to be holding this for a while. Most of these poses you can hold as long as it's comfortable for you. Keep locking the elbows. If your elbows tend to drop to the floor, you can put a rolled up blanket under the elbows to support it. If your head really has to drop down to get the forehead to rest on the floor, you can put a blanket to support your head. This Adamuka Virasana is a wonderful pose to open the armpits, and you can intensify it by taking the brick to the elbow. So you're going to bend up your arms, take the hands in the prayer position, and you're placing your elbows on the bricks. This can be a little bit of a challenge for a lot of people, especially if you are tight in the shoulders. If you have any shoulder injuries, then it does become a challenge. So don't hold it for too long. Come up. If being on the bricks is super challenging, then rather come to the chair and bring your elbows to the front seat of the chair. Feels a little bit more stable than the bricks, and you're able to still, where the blanket was, where the balls were, get that into the body, get the openness in the chest. If you want to challenge yourself to get that external rotation that you need for poses like Pincha Mayurasana, either staying on the chair or staying on bricks, you can take a brick in between the two palms. And the wider you take the brick, the more you intensify that work in the shoulder region. And we're going to also now take stay. You can also from here release the thumb towards the neck, coming to almost like an Uttarajasana shape also. And now you can come out of it. Just be in this position, relaxing the arms, relaxing the shoulders. Coming to full Adamuka Virasana now. So without any support, Adamuka Virasana. No, Adamuka Virasana. The knees are only wide enough that the inner thighs support your body. Your elbows are locked, your arms are straight, your hands are spread. Feel that openness in the armpit that you just kind of managed to open up in these raised poses. And then come to Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. Adamuka, the heels are apart, the feet are apart, the hands are apart. You're trying to get this thoracic spine in Adamuka also, and you're trying to get that openness in the armpit. From here, swing the right leg forward into a lunge. If you're unable to, like Diana, get the leg into one movement, get that leg up front, you can use your hand to help it forward. Now, place the left knee on the floor, turn the left toes under. Try to keep this back foot extending completely straight back. Don't let the ankle sickle. And feel, is all the weight on the knee? Can you push the front ankle in? Keeping the buttocks down. You want to come into Untitled, so either taking your hands onto your knees to come up or extending the arms straight up in one movement. Keep the hips dropping down. You're getting a lovely stretch in this left quadricep, and you want a crescent moon shape. So think about this half moon shape. Dig the tailbone in, dig the dorsal in, look up and breathe. Exhale, take the hands to the floor. Turn the back toes under, make your way back to downward facing dog. If you're a beginner and you need to rest in Adamukha Virasana here, then do. Otherwise, from Adamukha, left leg step it forward to the lunge. From here, keeping the hips low, keep the stretch in the back of the leg, take that back knee to the floor. If you need a blanket for the knee, take it. Lovely long straight line with that back shin, pressing the shin down, keeping the buttocks grounded. You want to come up, so take your hands on your knees if you need to. Keep the buttocks down to maintain that stretch in the right leg and stretch the arms up. And you want to go into a little bit of a back bend shape in Anjaneyasana. So here where the blanket was, where the ball was, dig in. Lift the breastbone, reach the arms up, look up. Don't forget to breathe. And on an exhalation, take the hands down. Turn the back foot, coming to downward facing dog. In downward facing dog, again, just feel that openness in the armpits. Take your knees to the floor. Take the knees wide, toes together, release in Adamukha Virasana. Rest here. So to make it more restful, let your elbows rest on the floor. With the forearm and the elbow rested on the floor, you can relax more the shoulders and the neck region. Let the restorative be restful. Okay, so to strengthen the muscles of the upper back, we're beginning with just a few gentle back bends. If your pelvis feels stuck and uncomfortable against the floor, you're welcome to put a blanket, especially if your mat is quite thin. So we're going to come to Bujangasana now, lying on your tummy. At first, you want to just make sure that there's openness in the front groin, so you can lift one leg up at a time and just extend the front leg, extend the front of the foot, and keep the legs together. That is the classic pose. If you struggle with back issues, take your feet hip distance apart. If you're a beginner, take your feet hip distance apart. Taking the feet hip distance apart, you want to keep a broadness from the inner thigh to the outer thigh at the back, so that there's kind of a release of the sacrum. Now with the hands at your chest, you're going to press into the floor, lift your chest, lift your shoulders, lift your head. If you can lift your gaze, you can lift your breastbone a bit more. Don't lift your gaze and your chest by only lifting your chin. So keeping the back of the neck long to start off with, it's more important in the beginning to get that lift of the chest and the dorsal in. Roll that front shoulder back. Remember that openness across the collarbones that you had a moment ago. Breathe. When you're ready, you release and you come down. Back bends are... it's easy to hold the breath when you're holding back bends. So although it's not a smooth, easy flowing breath, get that breath to flow. When you were lying on the floor and you had that roll of blanket in your back, you were able to really open up the chest and take the front shoulder back. And that's what you want to do here. Roll that front shoulder back, extend to the elbows. So pressing into the hands, up you come. Push, and then inhale, inflate the chest. Open up across the collarbones, release down to the elbows. Dorsal in, chest lifted. Breathe. Keep breathing. Keep breathing. Keep feeling the spread of the back of the thigh. Keep moving the buttocks to the heels. And you only hold the pose as long as you can. In classic Bujangasana, you do straighten up the arms, but because the pelvis is against the floor, and if you don't have a lot of mobility in your spine, especially in the thoracic spine, you could put a lot of strain on the lower back. So keeping the elbows bent also helps you to develop upper body strength for poses like Urdhva handstands, Chaturanga Dandasana, etc. If you've rested enough, one last one. Push the floor away. Dorsal in. Create space at the top shoulder. Roll the shoulders away from the ears. Breathe. Keep breathing. Keep feeling your body. You're lifting the chest. You're digging in the dorsal. Active arms. Don't forget the breath. And then when you've held it, release. Push yourself back to Adamuka Virasana. You're just going to hold Adamuka Virasana very briefly. And then once you've had enough of an extension in Adamuka Virasana, you can then come up. It's important in all of these back bends to remember that you're not lifting up with the shoulders to the ears. You want to move the shoulders away from the ears and you're lifting the breastbone. So be very careful when you come out of them in your release pose that you feel, did you relax the neck? Did you relax the shoulders enough? Yeah, we're coming now to Salabhasana. Again, it's a back bend. If you want a blanket for your pelvis, you take it, you'll strap for this Salabhasana. So before you lie down, you want to just measure up the strap. The strap is helpful for beginners or like me if you're dealing with an injury and you cannot interlace the hands behind the back, then bringing the hands behind the back with a strap is useful. And you measure the strap from your inner armpit line to your inner armpit line. So have a strap measured already. And you're going to just set it aside. You're lying on your tummy. The same adjustment you did for Bujangasana, where you're stretching the front of the thigh. Remembering all those actions to protect your back throughout your back bend, that movement of the flesh of the buttocks away, the spread across the back of the thigh. Now, in Salabhasana, when you lift up the arms, you're not lifting just the hands. So if you lift just the hands, you end up having the shoulder rolling down and you're creating more of a hump. So now you're going to lift from the shoulders to lift up the arms. So if you do have that artist's hump, this is going to be a challenge for you. Don't forget to breathe. Lift your legs also if you're able to. Don't forget to breathe. Reach back with the hands and into the fingers. Keep breathing. And when you've had enough, you release and you come down. If you're able to interlace the fingers behind the back, then you're going to try. You'll interlace the fingers behind the back. And when you come to Salabhasana, you'll come to Salabhasana with the fingers interlocked. If that causes a lot of strain and a whole traffic jam at the neck and shoulder muscles, then this is where you're going to place the strap. Palms face each other. The strap is at the wrists and up you come. So the interlocking of the hands or having the strap just helps you to dig that dorsal in, helps you to have something to pull back and lift against. Breathe. Short, sharp breaths, but do keep breathing. When you've had enough, you're going to release, relax, and let go. And you can repeat these as often as you want. When you need to release the back, you can release in downward dog or in Adamuka Virasana, so have a quick release. But because we are still doing a few more chest openers, back bends, don't release for too long. We're now going to come to Ustrasana and Dhanurasana. And Ustrasana, although it is a beginner pose, if you do have that dowager's hump, it is super, super challenging to get that openness in the chest, and to throw the head back and to hold Ustrasana as a pose just becomes almost impossible. So we're going to hold a restorative Ustrasana. You're going to have a blanket on the floor. That blanket on the floor is going to provide softness for the knees and the shins. You're going to open up your chair. You can place the chair against the wall if you feel that it's going to slide away from you, but it should be fine. You're going to have a bolster from the seat to the back of rest of the chair, and you're going to have a blanket, or you might even need 2 blankets for your head. Right, so you're going to thread yourself in there. You thread your feet first. Get your shins onto the floor, the buttocks against the chair, flesh of the buttocks down, bolsters into the back. Lie back on the bolster, support yourself by holding the chair, and then here's blankets for the head. You're getting a nice lift in the chest. The neck is supported, so especially if you have neck injuries, this is a really nice way of working into Ustrasana. If that's not an issue for you, then Dhanurasana, similar shape to what Diana's doing, except it's on the abdomen. And you really have to dig the dorsal in. So these poses are all very, very beneficial to help get that dorsal spine in and the openness in the chest. And then coming to a free Ustrasana. When you've been there for a while, you push yourself away from the chair. You can come away from the chair and just sit down, have a rest in a seated position. If you want to try Ustrasana free, but you cannot reach the feet with your hands, placing a bolster onto the shins helps to ground the shin, also gives you something to push into with the hands to get the shoulder blades more into the body. We're coming now to stand in Tadasana. Tadasana is the mountain pose. Tadasana is also the pose that we use to go into many of the other standing poses, but you can also do all the standing pose arm shapes in Tadasana to help mobilize the shoulders and the thoracic spine. So the first thing we're going to do is interlace the fingers behind your back. As you do, be careful not to let the front thighs come forward. Keep the abdomen back. If you're unable to interlock the fingers, again, you take the strap, so turning, strap around the wrist, extend the arms behind you to get that dorsal in. And to work on mobility, you can also start to move the arms away from you, but keep the front thighs back, abdomen back, and you're working at getting this dorsal spine in, openness across the collarbones. Releasing that, we're going to do Gomukhasana arms. So Gomukhasana, you're taking one arm up, and it has to roll from the outer to the inner, taking the bicep out. And when that arm is up in the air, you swing the other arm underneath and you try and grab your arms behind your back. So turn around and show the side you can do. Gomukhasana, so one arm is up. You can either windmill the arms around, work into it slowly, or use momentum. This hand comes in, this hand sweeps underneath, and you're trying to hold your fingers. Don't let your wing stick out so much, bring it in. You want to level off the chest. You want to be strong in Tadasana. And then releasing the arms, and you'll try the other side. If you're unable to grab the fingers, taking the top hand up, you'll have a strap in the top hand, and then when you reach the other hand underneath, that strap is there just to encourage you to be able to get the hands a little bit closer, maybe gives you something to hold on to try and get the hands to work into that dorsal region. And then when you've been there for a few breaths, release. Coming to Natarajasana. So Natarajasana would be taking the arms over your head, similar kind of armpit opening that you have in Shirshasana, head balance. So palms together, elbows are up, armpits are open, and quite challenging to breathe here. So breathe, feel the dorsal coming in, breathe, keep standing firm on the legs. If you can get that, you can stay. If you can get that armpit opening a little bit easier with the use of the wall, then you lean into the wall, get your elbows into the wall and up, and see, can you get more openness that way and bring that dorsal in. All these poses, you would hold them, let that kind of develop a little bit, be here for a few breaths before you come away from them. And then once we've done this one, last one is Paschima Namaskarasana. So Namaskarasana is hands in the prayer position. Paschima Namaskarasana is bringing the hands into the prayer position behind the back. And again, you don't have to wait until you're on your mat to do these poses. These arm movements are very good at getting that thoracic spine mobile, and do them regularly so that, throughout the day, do them often. And then when you've been there for a few breaths, release. Okay, seated or Shavasana done with the back in Mayurasana is excellent for getting that openness in the chest. So give you a similar sensation to what you had when you were lying on the blanket. So lying on the floor, knees bent. You're keeping your knees bent to start off with, and you get these soft yoga foams, which if you do have a very rounded back, the soft foam is probably a little bit more comfortable and humane, but you can also do it with the brick, and the brick gives you huge advantages. So we'll begin with the soft foam. Where you had the blanket, now we're bringing the brick across that area. So you're going to lie back over that brick. You have to do a back bend and then take a little bit of support for your head. If your head is not touching the support, that could give you a little bit of vertigo, could affect your blood pressure. So make sure your head is touching something if you are prone to those things. And now just again, feel yourself melting onto the mat. This doesn't feel super comfortable for everybody. So especially if you have back issues, you can keep your legs bent. If you want to take your legs straight, you do. Turning the palms to face up, rolling the bicep out gives you more openness across the chest. And this is super, super relieving for some people. It can release a lot of emotional stuff, a lot of these heart openers and back bends. And for so many of us, this is a very vulnerable position. So don't hold it for too long. If anything feels uncomfortable or aches in your back or your neck, please bend your knees, come out of it, take more support for your head. You want the benefit of getting the dorsal in, that openness in your chest. You don't want this to, sort of create harm in any way. And then pressing into your hands, bending your knees, push yourself up and just come to a seated position. So once you've done this practice using soft foams, using soft blocks, then at a later stage, you can work on getting a sharp, tall brick in your back and then a brick for your head. Are you ready for this? Yeah. Okay. So again, know your body. Go. Keep your knees bent. Good job. So it is nice if you've got somebody with you that can help you with props and things so that you're not up and down and up and down. And be careful not to twist your back when you're coming up and down in these. So pushing into the hands, you'll come up slowly out of your Setubandha, out of your Mayurasana. We're coming to Setubandha Sarvangasana next. So lie down flat on your back, have your brick nearby, and you're keeping your knees bent. The brick is going to come into the tailbone. So when you're ready, you're going to lift up the buttocks and you're taking the brick so that the tailbone is on the center of the brick. Some buttock flesh will be on the brick, some sacrum will be on the brick. That's perfect. Keeping the knees hip distance apart, rolling from the outer thighs to the inner thighs so that the feet are in Tadasana. And once you've opened up the chest, you can relax the arms, make sure that the back of the neck is long, throat is soft. So here you're also getting an openness in the chest, not so much as you were earlier maybe, but it's also coming towards that chin lock that we get in shoulder balance. Salamba Sarvangasana. This pose is an alternative pose to doing shoulder balance. So if you don't actually do shoulder balance, we are going to come back to this pose when we do shoulder balance. If you'd like to intensify your practice here, see, are you able to interlace the fingers beyond the brick? Use them to roll the outer arm up. Momentarily see, can you lift the pelvis off the brick? Can you hold it by using the strength of your legs? Breathe. I'm going to remove the brick, and you can change the cross of your fingers and lift up tall once more. When you've been there for a while, you unroll and you come down. So if you are not doing shoulder balance, you're going to again come to this pose, Setu Bandha Sarvangasana, but you will have your shoulder balance foams where your feet will be. So you're placing the brick as you did for Setu Bandha a moment ago. Now we're extending the legs to the fuller pose. That's okay. Turn it. So you do have to make sure you're stable and steady before you try and lift off. Now extend your legs, and if you've got a little bit of height, then the extension in the back, in the front body is a little bit less, and it maybe isn't as sharp in the back, and you can rest here for a little bit longer. However, if you are doing shoulder balance, so bend your knees. So to come out of this pose, you'd bend your knees, and you'd bring the brick down a little bit at a time until you're flat on the floor. If you're not doing Setu Bandha on the brick, we're coming to do shoulder balance. Now, shoulder balance in the chair is lovely. You don't need to measure up a strap because the chair legs will hold you in position. Because you're on a chair, you can hold it a little bit longer. It feels a little bit easier and more comfortable. You're still going to use your shoulder balance foams. You can make a strip of 2 shoulder balance foams, one on top of the other, and they're across like that. If you have a firm bolster, you can also use that. Taking a blanket to cover the foams helps to give them a little bit of softness and hold them together. They're not right against the chair. That also is dependent on how long you are. Then a blanket for some softness for your head, and so that your hair can slide. If you have an extra blanket, placing it around the backrest of the chair is quite nice, especially for when you bring your legs over. So don't be tempted to thread the legs through the chair. You're going to sit sideways. Again, if you don't normally do shoulder balance, you're doing Setu Bandha. Now you're going to bring your feet, hook your knees over the chair, making sure that you've got sufficient, too far in, making sure that, come up. You want to make sure that there's enough blanket for your sacrum to rest on. So I think you're too far in. Oh, you're going to slide off a bit. Okay. So that when you come down, at some point your legs have to straighten. And when you come down, the buttock flesh is pinned in position so that that lumbar spine is long. Here, these 2 points where babies get their little dimples, that is hooked on the chair. So the sacrum is hooked in. You've slid your arms through the chair to the back legs, or if you're broad, you can also come around the outer of the legs. And you'll see here, you get a lovely open shape in the chest. You get that same openness in the chest that you had when you had your hands interlinked behind the back. And because you're supported here, you can hold shoulder balance a lot longer than if you were doing it free. Keep the back of the neck long. Salamba Sarvangasana in a chair is a wonderful way of learning shoulder balance. But if you are learning it for the first time, then do have somebody with you so that you don't fall and the chair doesn't give way. And also, if you have blood pressure issues, if you have any neck or shoulder injuries, if you have glaucoma, any eye issues, if you're menstruating, there's a few reasons you wouldn't do this wonderful pose, but yeah, do research it before just trying it online on your own. Always keep the head in the center, gaze quiet. So in this shoulder balance position, you actually get more action in the dorsal spine than if you're doing shoulder balance in a free position. When you're ready to come out of it, depending on whether you've got space or not, you can either push the chair away from you or just slide off the chair so that your legs stay on the chair, your buttocks rest on the foams, and your head and your shoulders are on the blanket on the same level. You can rest your legs. Shavasana with the legs in the chair is also very nice, but we're not doing that today. Once you've rested a little bit after doing shoulder balance, you're going to bend your knees, take them through the chair, roll out onto your side. We're just going to do a gentle twist in Shavasana before actually going into Shavasana. So moving all the supports out the way. If you need the bolster for behind your knees in Shavasana, you can keep that handy. Have a folded blanket nearby for your head. You can already use the blanket now if you wish. So coming to lie in Shavasana. Start with the knees bent just to stretch the back. And if you need the blanket already. So now extend the legs. And just to do a gentle twist, you're going to bend up the left leg. And using the right arm, just take that knee over to the right. You don't have to settle the knee on the floor. If the foot wants to rest on the floor to make it a bit easier, you do. This leg can turn and just get a nice stretch in the back. You're only holding this as long as it feels comfortable for you. And then back up to center. Shavasana again. And then from here, bending up the right leg, use the left arm, roll to the left leg turns. So you're getting the lovely stretch across those back muscles. And you hold it for the same length of time that you hold the other side. Bend the knees again once you're back in the center. Adjust the flesh of the back body. And when you're ready to extend the legs, extend the legs. Let the feet flop out to the sides. You're letting the thigh roll from inner thigh to outer thigh, relaxing the arms and the shoulders completely. Make sure that the back of the neck feels long and the head and the neck are supported. And then when you feel ready, let the eyes close. With each exhalation, the eyes gaze down towards the heart center. With each exhalation, the eyelids become heavier. You let the skin from the hairline move down to the chin, so the skin of the face is relaxed. And also from the midline, let the skin move to the outer sides of the face. Throat soft, shoulders relaxed, jaw, tongue completely quiet. Each exhalation, it's as if every cell of the body is sighing and letting go completely. So with each exhalation, just release. With each exhalation, completely let go. If thoughts come, acknowledge them, release them, come back to your breath. If you get distracted by sensations in your body, adjust. If you get distracted by any sounds, draw your focus back to your breath. to come out of Shavasana. You want to come out slowly, almost reluctantly, bringing your hands onto your abdomen. You just connect with your breath. On the next breath in, you can stretch your arms over your head, give your body a long, deep stretch, and yawn or sigh the breath out. And you're going to bend your knees, roll onto your right-hand side, cradle your head in your right arm, and you want the left side of the body just to settle here, holding you in this quiet Shavasana state for a moment longer. You come up almost reluctantly, so use the left hand, bringing the head up last. Once you're seated, you're going to lift up your spine, lift and open up the chest, and bring the hands together in the prayer position. Coming to the breath, each inhalation bringing you back to full consciousness. Put a small smile on your face with a sense of gratitude you're taking in each breath. When you feel ready, let the eyes gently flutter open and focus. Namaste. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Diana. And I hope this practice is useful and helpful for you. Namaste.